What's up, everybody? My name is Nick Daniels, and welcome to Nonsense with Nick and Noah, where common sense goes to die.
It should be more like welcome back since this is our second episode. But yes, welcome everyone to the show. We've got a very good one planned for today. Today's episode focus is it could always be worse. Normally it could always be better, but well, in our case, it definitely could always be worse.
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about crappy things we've seen on job sites, messed up things that we have found on our food truck after we purchased it. We're going to be going into some tech talk and some pretty funny work accidents that weren't funny when they happened, but looking back at it, it could have been worse.
And oh my gosh, looking back at them now, boy, were they funny how they happened. So let's go ahead and get into it with our first segment. So this one's actually pretty funny to me and also my brother-in-law because technically my brother-in-law was the one in charge of the site at the time. When Nick first got into fire alarm or the fire alarm industry, I think one of his first tasks, and he can correct me if I'm wrong, but one of his first tasks getting out there was to hang a box, an electrical box, on the wall. Now, to his credit, he wasn't really given any material other than a box and told, go hang it up.
Yeah, I mean, I was told just, go make it work. And I'm going to throw this disclaimer out there. Before I came into fire alarm, the only other trade that I'd worked in was I was at a steel mill for almost a year, and then I was a welder on an exhaust line for a car manufacturer. So I wasn't used to this type of work. I didn't really know what the material was called. I didn't know what tools to use, etc. Now some of the stuff should have been common sense. I'll give that, but at the same time, when you're just given something that said, hey, go make it work with no clear direction, that's where this landed me.
So with that disclaimer being thrown out there, he went and got the box on the wall, and to his credit, it did stay on the wall. However, briefly, right? We had come back, I think from lunch or something like that, and we were just doing a quick walkthrough or whatever, and this box, I kid you not, was almost off the wall completely. You could see the screws just hanging out there. I think the only thing holding it up, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, was the wires themselves.
So there was that. But, the one thing I did learn is that, drywall screws are the duct tape of screws. So,
I mean,
that's
that's
what I used. So, for people that need a visual, it was a notification appliance circuit booster box. So, it was probably about 18 inches by 12 inches by 3 inches deep.
No, this one was just a 4x4 square box. Yeah.
Then you and I are thinking of two different things.
Because this one was above ceiling.
You're talking. Okay, yeah. I didn't know that's what you were.
Wait a minute. You had another one that nearly fell off the wall.
No.
Oh, guys, this just turned into confession. To all you Catholics out there, sorry. My brother-in-law is Catholic, so I do have a pass.
Oh, man.
But,
I was completely green.
Not only that, but with today's theme, it could have been worse.
Yeah.
You could have used I
could have used super glue.
Well, you could have used super glue. You could have used a 1/4-inch self tapper.
There's a lot of. I was just told to go get it up there and make it work. So and at that time I wasn't licensed, so I didn't know the code very well. I didn't know really anything. I wasn't given very clear directions. So,
and in this industry, that is exactly what will get you hired.
Exactly.
And promoted. Once you start once you start knowing stuff, you can't be promoted at that point.
Yeah. The dumber you are, the better off you are.
Boy, isn't that the truth.
Well, because like think about it, the more you know, the more valuable you become in the field. So they don't ever want to promote you.
And again, to Nick's credit, I'm not saying I'm infallible or that I'm perfect, because I've definitely had my fair share.
Yes, he is. Yes, that's exactly what he's saying.
That is not what I'm saying.
I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. That's what he says on the job site.
Maybe in your dreams. I've had my fair share of things that, starting out as a fire alarm technician, I've done that was just kind of like, okay, why would I do something like that? But, it happens. I think the first one that I did, I had a duct detector that wouldn't go onto the air duct all the way. And to my credit, I did try. I must have forgotten about it or went to lunch or something, because I only had one screw into the stupid duct. And somebody else found it, and boy, did I get my butt chewed out on that one. So you're not completely alone on that one. I've been there.
I mean, things happen, and I'll be honest here and say, like, there's even some stupid things that I've done. Even recent, things happen. You just get in a hurry, you forget, and whatnot. So,
and I mean, the general rule of thumb is the code is kind of the lowest point that you can go and still be okay. So, it's not always the end of the world.
Yeah, that's fair. Now, the one thing that Noah won't tell you is that him and electricity do not get along.
Actually, no. I will go ahead and gladly admit that right now. And I have admitted that several times. Me and electricity. And it seems like me and electricians especially just do not get along whenever it comes to live circuits.
Oh my gosh. No, let's pause for a minute, okay? Let's put a pin in electricity and let's talk about electricians and Noah. Noah can't stand Sparkies.
No, I cannot. Oddly enough, they make up probably 3/4 of my interaction on the job site. And I cannot stand them 99.9% of the time. Now, that being said, there are a few Sparkies that I actually do get along with, but most of them, the vast majority of them, really just rubs me the wrong way. Apparently.
Now, I'm going to put this out there for the people that don't know the trades. Fire alarm falls under the subtitle of a low voltage electrician. So, technically, Noah's a low volt Sparky.
Hey, I don't want to hear it. You are too.
Hey, I got no problem with that. I get along with all the Sparkies just fine. I've got zero issues with them.
That's because you haven't had any try to kill you yet. So the first time that I had a bad run-in with an electrician and electricity, specifically, I was on a job site that literally follows the OSHA guidelines like it's the freaking Bible. And I'm not exaggerating on that one. So, knowing that, I was told when I showed up to install a new panel that the circuit was pulled in, it was ready to be terminated, and it was de-energized and locked out. So, I get up in there, open up the back box for the panel. And, I grabbed my TIG tester, which is just a little handheld device that checks for the presence of voltage. I always do this just to, just best practice, just to always verify. And I put my TIG tester onto the up against the live wire, and it immediately goes red. Well, I kind of shift my gaze downwards, and it's not capped off. It's not taped off. The wires had been stripped back, so there was copper being exposed. And on top of that, both the hot and the neutral was touching the back box of the panel itself. So that panel was 100% for more or less of a better term, was part of the circuit and live. Not just that, it was also shorted to the neutral, and somehow the breaker didn't trip, which makes it infinitely worse.
Again, Noah has very bad luck with electricity.
Yeah. Needless to say, I had to file a close call with the company that I was working for. I had to get the general contractor involved. I had to get their safety. I had to get the electrician's safety. All in all, that was not a fun day.
What other close calls have you had with electricity?
Oddly enough, it was another panel install at a school. So this one had very lax OSHA enforcement, and it was basically the wild, wild west. This one just had the hot wire touching the back box of the panel, and again, this sucker was live, and I was told that it was dead. I had both hands on the panel, so I was 100% part of the circuit, and how I did not get a nasty shock is beyond me.
Good grief.
Let's see, another one that I had, the electrician nicked the 120 wires coming into the panel. Didn't tell me, and I was working on moving some panel components around to get some information, so that way I knew how to wire certain things. And I wasn't paying super close attention to it because of where the 120 wires were and what was in the way. The electricians nicked it, didn't tape it, fix it, or anything. And when I went to slide a panel component out, it touched right up on the hot and neutral and literally blew up in my face.
So how could that have been worse?
Considering the fact that I had both hands touching the same component, had I been grounded, it definitely would have been a not great day for me.
Yeah.
And that's just kind of saying the least. So at this point now, I am very cautious when I show up to a job site and I'm doing a new install and I'm being told, yeah, that circuit's dead. Life lesson for everybody. That circuit is almost never actually dead.
Yeah, go. That's why they have like lockout tagout. Go check that and make sure that, the circuit's actually turned off. Go make sure, do your due diligence like Noah did with the tick tester. Test it for voltage before you touch it, because once you touch it, it could be too late. Especially when you get into like higher voltage. Like 120, you're going to get hurt, but it's not going to kill you.
It's a small tingle. It starts feeling nice after a little while.
But like, in all seriousness, like, the higher the voltage, the more likely it is to be lethal. So do your due diligence and make sure that your guys are being safe out there.
I actually had a guy lose an arm. Not one of my guys. This was on the electrical team. He actually lost his arm because he was sending metal fish tape through an existing conduit that had 480 on it. And if I remember correctly, the report said that it was a phase-to-phase short, which is still pretty nasty stuff. You don't want to be on the receiving end of that. But he lost his entire arm.
Should have been a warning for that, but okay.
It's fine. So the next part of this segment is at my current project. I have so many code violations. It is a wonder that place ever got past its final inspections, and B is still operating today.
To clarify, these are not code violations that you have caused, correct?
Oh no, correct. This is stuff that I found just poking around in the ceiling. Turned my head and there's a 277 emergency lighting circuit with a 4-square box just hanging by the wires.
Oh no!
Yeah, yeah. Seeing that one, it made me laugh a little bit. Definitely not something that you want to see for longevity. And unfortunately, this box looked like it had been there for probably about 15, 20 years.
Covered in dust and spider webs and...
Oh, yeah. A little bit of mouse droppings as well.
Ugh.
So definitely a bit dirty. And definitely not great as far as code compliance goes. One of the other code issues that I found, none of their gate valves on their sprinkler system are being monitored currently.
What?
Yeah. Out of I think there's like 40, either 39 or 40 gate valves in total on this project. You know how many are actually being monitored?
Probably 0.
Believe it or not, 2.
Oh, good Lord, have mercy.
And the funny part is they're gate valves that literally make no difference. They are literally going to the FDC at the pump house, and that's it.
Oh wow!
So if those dampers are closed, it doesn't make a difference. The sprinkler system will still work, but you will never know if a gate valve is closed anywhere on the system. So they could have a entire section of the building with the tampers closed, and they would never know about it. And if there's a fire in that building, and those are actually closed, it'll never get the sprinkler protection that is there.
So, for the audience's sake, explain the repercussions of that if there was a fire in that building.
So if there's a fire in that building, one thing to kind of keep in mind is the existing fire system out there will still call out to the fire department because the water flow switches are being monitored. So once water starts moving in that pipe, there's a flapper in there that goes in the direction of the water, and it holds down a switch, and after so many seconds it changes the state of the onboard circuit in there to basically let the fire panel know that there's an issue. So the fire department will still show up. However, if in the middle of the building or around an egress point or something like that is on fire, like let's say that's where the fire is, the sprinkler head's job would be to reduce the size of that fire, so that way building occupants can kind of pass through safely if they need to, and get out of the building safely. So what that kind of does is that limits the damage that the fire can actually do, and also provides a kind of like a safety net for the building occupants in case it's needed. So on a site like this, where you can literally take 100 different exit routes, it's not as big of a deal. But when you take a look at the property damage aspect of it, it's a pretty significant issue, and it's one that has been remedied through numerous code revisions since. I believe this particular one fell under the late 90s code revision, but yeah, it definitely isn't good in any event, even back then. So at least they're monitoring the water flow switch. So
yeah,
in that case, it could be worse.
What do you think the worst code violation you've ever seen has been?
Oh gosh, at our former employer, one of our coworkers couldn't figure out the new detectors and what the specific issues meant. So to clear a panel so he could go home, Dude literally just took a resistor and put it right at the module and took the wires off and left it. Didn't tell anybody and didn't make a note of it anywhere.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. The other one that I've seen that really hit me was companies not pulling permits for jobs. That was a big deal for me. In fact, I actually left a company because of that.
And for those of you that don't know, when you're doing any type of construction, whether that's new build or if you're adding on to something, especially in commercial and industrial, you have to pull a permit for whatever work is being performed. So if you're running a new water line for something, you have to pull a permit for it. If you're running new electrical, you have to pull a permit for it. New fire alarm stuff, you have to pull a permit for it. And the reason being isn't just so Uncle Sam can get his cut of the project, but it's to make sure that the design standards are being met, and companies aren't trying to take shortcuts or be lazy or stuff like that.
And with that being said, fire alarm is life safety. Everything that we touch affects somebody's life later down the line, whether that's for the good or for the bad. If I mess up, somebody could die because of my lack of knowledge or willingness to do something. So that's why in our industry, it's very important to know what you're doing, to go by the book and go the extra mile, because no one's life is worth you being lazy or trying to get around the rules.
And it's not even really a matter of, oh well, it won't happen. It'll be fine.
You can't say that.
I literally had a project that had been turned over for not even like 3 months that actually caught fire. We had to have the fire department out there and everything, and they had an actual fire that they had to put out. Literally 3 months after the project had turned over. And had I taken shortcuts or not done my job or tried to hide anything or whatever, that issue could have turned out to be a whole lot worse than what it was.
Yeah.
So that's why it's super important that in this industry, and really this kind of applies to all the trades actually. So electrical, plumbing, HVAC, even the masonries, whatever, if things aren't being done correctly, we have standards for a reason and we have codes for a reason. If they're not being followed, that's when that's when loss of life comes into play, and that's when things really become interesting.
And I'm gonna put this too. The whole thing with permitting, failure to do so and working on that system, that's a felony offense. They don't play around with that. You could go to jail for.
In fact, we actually had a coworker. We actually had a coworker that we used to work with, who had police show up at the job site and threatened to take him to jail because he was working on a system, a new construction system, without a permit.
Yeah, they don't play around with this. Again, it's life safety, meaning that people's lives are at risk with every step that we take, from the very beginning with drawings to turnover and end user training. And Ohio really takes it seriously. They are one of the, in my opinion, one of the top states in the United States that actually takes it as seriously as they do. You got states like Indiana that treat it like the wild, wild west. You can pretty much do anything and get away with it. Yeah, and here's the thing too. Anybody can read a book and study a book and pass a test, right? We all did it our entire career through school, okay?
Well, school's not really a career.
You get what I mean, though. We all did this. However, just because you take a test and you pass the test doesn't mean you actually understand what it means.
It just means that you know how to answer. In this case, 100 answers. Well, technically, you only got to get 70 out of the 100, but it shows that you can answer 70 questions on a 100-question test.
Exactly. So you really have to know what you're doing, because failure to do so, again, risks lives, and it also looks bad on companies. It looks bad on you. It looks bad on your projects and your coworkers.
I mean, it just makes the whole industry as a whole look bad.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah. So we kind of blended two topics in this segment together. What other poor work ethics have you seen over the years?
Oh gosh. Job starts at 7 a.m. People not showing up till 9, 10 o'clock and still clocking their hours, clocking in at home because people don't monitor things. They unplug the GPS from their trucks or, whatever. And I'm not going to lie, I'm guilty of that too. I'm guilty of unplugging a GPS because I don't like people knowing when I'm speeding, but...
Well, I mean, also, like, after hours, it's nobody's business where I am. I'm in a company truck, and we take it home. Even if I go straight home, it's nobody's business what I'm doing. When I'm on the clock, sure.
Yeah, I mean, so that's one thing. That's just an issue with this industry as a whole.
No, that being said, it kind of came up a little bit. People that I've worked with over the years get very touchy on the subject of lunch. Now, what I've always done, if a company says, you get a half hour lunch, in Ohio we get a half hour lunch and then 2 15-minute unpaid breaks. What I typically do is I typically forego using my 15-minute breaks for the day, and I just combine that into my half hour and just take an hour lunch. Honestly, perfectly ethical in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that most of the trades probably do that, except for if you're union, then you just do whatever you want.
Well, I was going to say, union has a much stricter policy on that. They actually have to take their 15-minute breaks and half hour, basically when they're told as part of their union contracts. But yeah, I've never actually had a problem with people doing that because, in my opinion, that's perfectly ethical. And honestly, the companies that I've worked for know that I've been doing that, and everybody else has been doing that within that company as far as the field techs go. And, nobody's ever called HR on it. No manager has ever said anything about it. So in my eyes, that is perfectly ethical.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. Now, some companies are a little bit stricter on that.
Yeah, absolutely. But, I mean, I was using that one as an example. An example of what is unethical is taking a 2-hour lunch.
Yeah.
Okay, now I know that we're both guilty of that one. But there are days where you are pretty much told, sit down and hurry up and wait.
Yeah, like, especially if you have to sit on hold with tech support. Like, oh my gosh, I hate those days.
Well, not just sitting on hold with tech support, but also, waiting on the inspector.
Waiting on the inspector, waiting on material to show up at the job, waiting on other people to show up at the job. Like, let's say you got subcontractors that are supposed to be there at, 9 o'clock and they don't show up till noon. Like, things happen. So, I don't know. Some other things that I've seen that's poor work ethic has just been sheer laziness. Like, people just don't want to do the job. They just want to show up to the job and complain the entire day about having to work. Like, dude, you grew up, you went to school, you either chose to go to college or you chose not to go to college. You decided to be in the industry that you're in, right? You're an adult. You can make those decisions. You chose to do the career path that you are in. Why are you complaining about it? Just show up to the job, shut up, and go home.
Most people just want to complain.
I mean, you're not wrong.
Which is just sad. And the people who still show up to work but don't complain are the ones that are actually the worst ones, who don't want to be there. Because I had a guy on my job site. He would disappear into the porta-johns for 2 hours at a time, give or take, hour at a time, something like that. And he would actually go and huff on PVC glue.
Oh my gosh, don't even get me started on that. There's this one guy, I used to work with him when I worked at the steel mill. This man literally had a drawer full of just random pills. I'm talking Xanax, I'm talking anything that you could think of to get high. Percocet, whatever. He would just take fistfuls of it at lunch, during his break, whatever. And, like, people would come in and trade. Like, there'd be a couple baggies here and there of this, that, or the other. Like, stuff, like, just happens all the time. And, in fact, there was actually an incident. That guy was a crane operator. And he was moving, I think it was like a 2,000-pound coil or something. Like, it wasn't anything super heavy. Because they would carry up to 75,000 pounds. But, I was down packing a coil, wrapping it for shipment and whatnot. This dude grazed my hard hat. Like, he came and knocked my hard hat right off of my head with a steel coil because he was high.
I forgot about that story. I remember when you told me about it. Didn't you take the rest of the day off because of that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I don't blame you. With that kind of a near miss, I do not blame you. So with all that being said, I think segment 1 can kind of come to a close at this point. We're already over 30 minutes in.
Oh, jeez. I hope y'all aren't bored with us yet, because we still have a lot to cover in this episode.
Yeah, our segment bullet points on this episode is actually surprisingly a lot more well structured, but also a bit more extensive than last week's for sure.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you all listening with us and working with us, because we're still new to this. We're still learning, how we want to get this working and how we want to structure things. So thank you for your patience.
So last week we touched on the food trailer that we had bought, and we kind of briefly, or at least briefly by our standards, talked about some of the messed up stuff that we had on it. One of the more concerning things was how this stupid water pump was wired in for the electrical.
Listen. This is probably the biggest thing for Noah and I, because it was the most redneck thing that we saw in there. Now, don't get me wrong, the whole thing was redneck to death. But looking at that specifically, you're just sitting there scratching your head. Why?
As soon as I saw that, whenever we brought the trailer home and we got it in the light and everything, I immediately heard banjos. That is how rednecked this thing was.
Oh my gosh, man. Like, it was so bad. And the crazy thing is, the seller told us that it was inspection ready.
Yeah. Like, quote unquote, inspection ready.
So, the girl who had bought it before us, she bought it off another barbecue company that went under. And she was going to turn it into like a coffee bar type deal on wheels. And she had spent, I don't know, I'm sure she spent a good amount of money trying to get it turned into what she wanted it to.
I think the seller said that she spent about $20,000 on it.
Something like that. Like, she did do her due diligence with it, but she failed her inspection 3 times. And then after that 3rd time, she just gave up. Like, she still tried to work on it here and there a little bit, but, like, she just lost the passion to do it. So that's why, Noah and I were able to pick it up. And I'll be honest, I sent her a lowball offer a little bit, but she was willing to take it, so.
And honestly, it wasn't nearly as low as what it should have been.
No, it should have been about $10,000 less, but that's besides the point.
And unfortunately, the water pump wasn't the only thing that was rednecked. I kid you not. When we started working on getting the trailer up to A, our standards, and B, how we needed it, and C, inspection ready, actually inspection ready, one of the things that we had to do was we had to move the outlets because they were above where we ended up putting the sink.
Well, let's rephrase that for a minute. We had to rearrange everything in the trailer, not just the electrical.
Well, and it wasn't to the seller's fault or anything. It's just we wanted to lay it out to a way that made better sense to us and actually helped with our flow a lot better.
Yeah.
So that's why we rearranged some stuff. But when it came time to the outlets, I am glad that we didn't actually power them on and plug anything into them, because I kid you not, they had the neutral and ground together, which, albeit it's not a bad thing, it's not a great thing, but it's not a bad thing. But they also had the hot landed on the ground terminal of the outlet.
Oh yeah,
and that was just rough.
yeah, that and the panel legend was completely wrong.
The original panel schedule was completely faded, so they wrote down a new schedule, and it wasn't right in the least.
So, I tried to turn the lights on and spent about 10 minutes trying to figure it out, only to find out that breaker wasn't tied in all the way.
Yeah, that one was pretty rough.
Yeah, and the thing with that was that it was actually plugged into electric, and because it wasn't tied in all the way, I got a little zappy zap.
Now, what really made this worse was the fact that all of the plumbing leaked.
Oh my gosh.
So bad.
That plumbing was probably the worst thing about this entire trailer. Like, we fought with this thing night and day for weeks. Like, I'm going to paint this picture for you guys. We bought this trailer in September. It didn't get up and running until middle of December, like the week before Christmas.
Yeah. And a lot of that time was spent on the plumbing. Now, don't get me wrong. In my entire life, I've done a good bit of plumbing. I've changed out heater elements on hot water tanks. I've changed out a hot water tank. I've fixed leaks on faucets. I've changed out a drain trap and stuff like that. So I'm not completely ignorant when it comes to plumbing. I understand the basic principle. I know whenever you're doing connections, like metal connections, so brass, aluminum, or I think copper is the other one. You have to use Teflon tape. When you're doing PVC, you have to use PVC glue. So I understand all that. This literally kicked my butt so hard. I think there was one week where I literally just stood at the bed of our pickup truck in despair, and I was like, I don't know what to do with this thing anymore.
Pretty sure I saw him cry.
I did not cry. I've only cried twice in my life.
Oh, that's a lie.
And that was once when my mother dropped me on my head.
Oh, that's a lie. I hear you cry every single week. Oh, they didn't do this right. They didn't do that right. Oh.
No, that's you talking about your Chevy over there.
Oh, whatever.
I'll save the car talk for next week's episode in the garage.
No, seriously though, I want to give a shout out to our friend Lindsay, who came and saved the day with this, because if it wasn't for her,
not just
like
Lindsay.
We were at our wits' end with this.
Not just Lindsay, we also had another friend. He's actually a sprinkler contractor buddy of ours.
Yes, our friend Chris as well helped us out with this as well. Between those two, if it wasn't for them, that thing would still be sitting on the street right now, and we'd be in despair because we couldn't get it fixed.
I mean, I'm sure we would have figured it out eventually, but it would have taken considerably longer.
Yeah.
To actually get that done.
Yeah, but Lindsay, Chris, if you guys hear this, we want to publicly say thank you to the both of you for getting this off the ground for us. Because if it wasn't for you guys, it would have been a lot more challenging for us.
And that's even considering the fact that it took us 3 weeks to do a deep clean on this stupid thing.
Oh my gosh.
This thing was beyond dirty. And I mean, again, this isn't a bash to the sellers who sold it.
It looked like somebody let a potbelly pig loose in the thing, and it just sat in there and rotted for like a month.
You know what? That's actually kind of fitting, though, considering our mascot for the fat pig is literally a pig.
I mean, you're not wrong.
That's definitely not something that'll get through the health department and through your health inspection, is it?
No, not at all. No pigs were harmed in the making of this trailer.
Well,
that we know of.
For the making of the trailer, sure. But afterwards, I mean, there's definitely quite a few hogs that... they definitely got smoked a little bit. So, but between the trailer being dirty, I think the towing, like the lights on the trailer themselves for whenever you're actually towing it, they intermittently worked. And there was like a literal mountain of trash inside of the fridge.
Oh my gosh!
That we had to clean out. Put all of that together, and that still didn't. That still wasn't as complicated as the stupid plumbing on this thing.
Yeah. I would go through all of that 3 times over than have to touch that stupid plumbing again. And the sad thing is, right now we need to touch it again because we got some work to do on it.
The good news is it's only at a couple of connection points. So now that we actually know how to use them and which ones we need, it'll be a lot easier this time around.
Yeah, because I mean, it got to the point when we were fixing it originally, we just had to gut everything and start over from scratch.
Oh yeah, you remember the first day that we were running the food trailer. The water pump literally blew up on us and knocked out the power all the way to the generator.
Yeah, that was a fun day.
Talk about a crappy start to your morning.
Yeah.
That one, like I literally felt my heart sink.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because of the sugar. Do you have anything else to add on this trailer, or are we done griping on it?
Listen, I'll be 75 years old if I'm still alive and I'll be griping about this stupid trailer.
See, now he's crying about it.
Yeah, shut up.
In case you didn't know from last week's episode, yes, we have been friends for 29 years now.
Yeah, unfortunately.
And that's unfortunate on my side. I got plenty of bite marks from when you used to bite me.
Hey, whoa now. No Diddy. No Diddy here.
Speaking of him, I wonder what's up with that guy.
I don't know.
Honestly, I'm surprised he didn't Epstein himself.
Who said that he's not going to?
Yeah, that's fair.
Anyway, before we go off on a tangent, I think it's time for us to move on to our next segment. We're going to be talking about tech.
What's a segment?
Listen, I spent 10 years in Kentucky, okay? I haven't kicked the accent.
That doesn't mean anything. That's just an excuse. But yes, it is time for a little bit of tech talk. You'll hear plenty of this on the show a little bit. Oddly enough, Nick's expertise is definitely not tech.
No, I am much better with gears than I am technology.
And honestly, let's be honest here. It's not by much.
Whatever.
I think the funniest interaction with Nick and technology is actually I can use today's example. AI, so ChatGPT and I forget the other one off the
Listen,
top of my head.
I'm convinced that all technology is just a bunch of Decepticons that are out to get me.
Yes, you did hear that right. He said Decepticons. But no, today's incident, he was trying to log into his email, and for some odd reason, it told him that he needed to verify his identity through his recovery email. And I'm just sitting there like, what are you doing to this thing that's making it do this?
All I did was sign into my email. I don't know. I don't know why technology doesn't like me.
I literally jumped on the exact same device he was using and was able to sign in less than 20 seconds.
Listen. In about another 10 years, I'm going to be the one that can't work his phone and my son has to work it for me.
I hate to break it to you, but you're kind of approaching that age now.
I know. Yeah, seriously though, it's crazy. My 18-month-old can actually work a phone. Like, he doesn't get screen time. We don't give him our phones. He doesn't get to play with that kind of stuff. But somehow he got a hold of my wife's phone, and he's sitting there taking photos and trying to call people on it, and just doing a little baby talk and whatnot. I'm like, dude, how do you know? How is it instilled into the brains of our kids now how technology works?
I mean, a lot of people would say that that's just either Darwinism or just evolution at work there.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. Like, people do evolve. I get that. I don't believe in Darwinism or evolution per se, but I do believe that we evolve as a species within our environment, just like anything else does.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, there is some truth to that. We, as humans, we do adapt to, new things. I mean, we adapted to using toilets rather than just doing our business in the woods like animals. So,
I mean, fair.
It does happen to an extent, and we're not going to get into the whole philosophical, nonsense of that.
That's not what our podcast is about. But
I mean, yeah, I do get what you're kind of driving home at. The fact that today's kid almost instinctively knows how to use a phone, a smartphone, is just completely mind-boggling.
Yeah, like I was going through my my photo library on my iPad the other day, and I found videos from like Thanksgiving or Christmas, like 5 years ago, where my cousin, at the time, he was probably 4 or 5 years old, thinking he was a TikToker doing dances, and he's like, "Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode, blah 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 blah." Like he was going through this whole spiel about like, thinking he was a YouTuber or something. Like, it was crazy that kids from such an early age are so infatuated with technology and instinctively know how to use it.
Meanwhile, I've been doing IT and computer-related stuff literally since I was about 12 years old. And just the other day, I literally had to fight with Windows to update the computer. And it nags the crap out of you to update your computer.
Oh
and
my gosh, yes,
I
it
could
does.
not get the stupid update to take. It kept failing. And after about an hour, I literally just almost threw the laptop. And I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm done. And on top of that, I think earlier today, it was earlier today when we were generating our script for the podcast. We're sitting here fighting with Microsoft Word to get the stupid font to come up the correct way.
Now I know how our parents felt.
Yeah, it's kind of sad that we're at that age now.
Right?
So one of the cooler part of our tech talk, when we were going through and doing business preparation, getting things ready for for the business as a whole, not necessarily just a food truck, but literally in the early stages of this. We were taking a look at point of sale software because obviously that's kind of an important piece of technology for any business really that does food or any type of retail. And I don't know if you guys know this, but that software plus the hardware is so daggone expensive.
Oh my gosh, yes it is.
And as a new business owner, that is a daunting price tag.
Yeah, like we were looking at one, I think it was like $500 just for the equipment, and then like another $500 to start up.
And then on top of that, they also had a monthly subscription fee of like $200 a month, plus a percentage of your
Gross sales.
gross sales, and I think that was a per day thing.
Yeah.
And it was daunting. Now, again, I've been heavy into tech ever since I was real little, and I've been programming computers for probably, God, almost 2 decades now. So I decided to take on the daunting task of writing our own point of sale software. And to my own credit, not tooting my own horn, it's definitely a lot better than what it was during the early days.
It's still full of Decepticons.
He only says that because he's an 80-year-old man who doesn't know how to use it.
Maybe.
Maybe. But what I really mean by that is, getting into it originally definitely was an easy task. It still is, but at the time, there were certain things that I came across that I just was not prepared for, and a lot of it just came down to crappy finger work on the keyboard. I can't tell you how many times the issue would literally come down to the use of the wrong character, so either a plus sign or equal sign in the wrong place, or a modulus symbol instead of a multiplication symbol, or whatever. Yeah, Nick fought with our point of sale software so bad one day, I literally couldn't do anything but just sit back and laugh, because it was just funny seeing it play out. And I swear, to this day, he thinks that I still programmed it to do what it did. And I honest to God did not. I really didn't.
Listen, this is how bad it is. The AI on the program cussed me out.
Well, okay. To call it an AI is kind of disingenuous, but it is more of a generative type algorithm that.
Regardless, the program cussed me out,
Which I still maintain was incredibly funny.
I'm like, how do you know how to do that? Number one.
Well,
Two, why are you cussing me out for no reason? Just because I'm trying to see how you work.
I think it was just fed up with Nick trying to get it to actually work that day, because it was doing a lot of heavy lifting. So kind of with that.
Is that a fat joke?
Hey, I'm fat too, so I'm allowed to make those jokes. I have earned it. I have spent the money on the food to earn it. A little bit of why, again, it's not an AI. It's just a very basic model that basically you feed it what you're trying to do, and it does its best to try to make sure that that happens. So that way, if I did inadvertently use the wrong arithmetic procedure on something, it can figure it out, recover from it, and output and say, hey, this issue came up during this at this spot in the program. Here's the best way to fix it, or what it thinks is the best way to fix it. Now, with that being said, it does have to have a very basic language model in there to actually output the data correctly and kind of explain its answer or whatever else. So that's probably where it learned to swear.
I don't know. I got no answers.
Honestly, it was probably the most interesting part of beta testing that I've ever actually seen.
See, the thing is, Noah tried to make this program as dummy-proof as possible.
And
so
it didn't
I was
work.
I was the perfect test subject. Because if anybody can break it, I can break it.
It's like Bob the Builder. Instead of can we fix it?
No, we can't. No, we can't.
Oh man. So I think that kind of wraps up our tech talk for today.
Yeah, we're gonna move on to our fourth and final segment of this podcast, and we're gonna be talking about some work accidents that's happened to me and Noah that definitely could have been worse, but they weren't fun when they happened.
Yeah.
Funny now.
I was going to say, they're definitely a lot funnier now than what they were when they actually occurred.
Yeah.
And that's actually kind of the even more funny thing, in my opinion, is kind of how that worked out. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and actually pick on you to kick off this segment, just because I can. No, Nick shouldn't have been doing this in the first place, but on the job site, sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, let's be honest here, okay? OSHA doesn't exist unless they're around.
or until there's a problem.
Exactly.
But Nick was on the OSHA step of a ladder. And
for people that don't know, that's the little plastic part at the top of the ladder that's specifically states, do not step on, not a step.
And what's funny is on the other side of that piece of plastic, it actually says that it can only support up to 10 or 15 pounds if it's a heavy-duty ladder. And so you're really, really not supposed to stand on it. So not only was he standing on it, somehow this guy tripped off of it.
So here... I'm going to paint this picture for you, okay? So I'm standing on the top of an 8-foot ladder on the OSHA step. And I'm hanging on to some 2x4s, trying to catch wire that somebody's throwing at me to pull it into the next room. Well, I caught the wire, but when I went to go step down off of the OSHA step, I got very big feet, and that's a very tiny step, and I kicked the ladder out from underneath myself. So I'm sitting there swinging from the top of the joists, just dangling there, and I'm a larger man, okay? It is what it is. I'm 6'1", 300 pounds, so, that joist could not hold me at all. So I just sit there, and I fall on top of the ladder.
So, for our people over in China, we're sorry for the earthquakes that day.
Oh, whatever. You're not that far behind me, so I don't want to hear it.
Try 50 pounds behind you, so that's pretty far.
I mean,
especially for fat guys like us. But I'm not really one to talk. I have fallen off of a ladder. Oddly enough, actually coming down off the ladder, I was on the second to last step, and apparently I thought I was on the last step, and I went to go straight down to the ground, and whenever that happened,
the ground wasn't there.
Yeah, the ground wasn't there. My instinct apparently kicked in reverse, because instead of leaning back forward and grabbing onto the ladder, I just let go of the ladder and leaned backwards. It's actually funny how this happened, because when I fell, my feet hit the ground and I fell backwards still, and there was actually a chair right behind me, so I fell into a chair, and I was just like, oh my god. Thankfully, I was not hurt.
Oh man!
So I'm not innocent of falling off of ladders and potentially causing earthquakes.
I'll tell you what does hurt though. Have you ever cut into a live wire by accident? Because we're gonna refer back to the beginning of the podcast. You always check it before you cut into something.
And ask us why we know that now.
Yeah.
Yes,
so there was one time, I was probably 16. I was doing a demolition job for my uncle. And I was given the task of taking an electrical panel out of a house that was being demolished. And, the power is supposed to be cut off to this place. So I go and I sit there and try to take this thing apart, with screwdrivers and whatnot. I was 16. I was lazy. I'm like, this is taking too long. So, me, without testing it and making sure that it was actually off, I decided to take an axe to the breaker box. And when I tell you, this thing shot me across the room, it shot me across the room. I passed out. I didn't wake up for like 4 hours on top of a giant pile of debris. Just like, what the crap happened to me?
So would you call that a shocking experience?
10,000 comedians on the job. We got this guy.
No, I get it. I mean, I've cut into live wires. Actually, one of the times that I did, I had just bought a new pair of wire strippers because I had left mine on a job site and somebody walked with them. So I had just bought them. They were maybe a week old, and I cut into live wires and blew a nice sized chunk hole into the actual cutting part of the wire strippers. So I had to buy a new pair because of that. So it's yeah, not the only one that's cut into live wires.
No.
But always going back to it, always make sure that your circuits are dead before working on electric. Now, that being said, if you pay attention to the residential Sparkies, so the guys that do like either houses or multifamily dwellings, they'll work on it live. You 100% can work on it live. You just have to be careful not to basically short the hot and neutral.
Yeah, you got to know what you're doing.
Yeah. Now, I have worked on electric live before.
Same here.
Not a big deal, but, going into it, I knew it was live.
Yeah. I mean, the more experience you get in this field, the more comfortable you get doing things and, knowing what not to do because of experience.
It's also why I now check the voltage on batteries before I wire them up to my panels. Because about a month ago, I wired up batteries to a panel, and I wired it up correctly according to the color codes on the terminals, but internally, the polarity was flipped.
How does that work?
My guess is the manufacturer either mislabeled it, or they just manufacture the battery backwards. So negative was actually positive, and positive was negative.
Good grief.
Needless to say, that panel
didn't like that. Yeah. Speaking of panel batteries, I think the funniest thing I saw, we used to have a guy that we worked with who was so easy to scare. I mean, this guy was afraid of his own shadow. And the funniest thing about this guy was he was deathly afraid to change batteries in a panel. I don't know if y'all know how this works or not, but anybody who's ever put in a AA battery could probably put in a battery in a panel. Like, it's not hard. They literally just plug in. If you can use an extension cord, you can plug in a panel battery. Simple as that. This guy could not, for whatever reason, change panel batteries without getting shocked. Every single time. And it would scare the fire out of him. Every single time. I'm like, how do you do this?
Honestly, to this day, I have no idea how that happens. Like, unless he's wiring them up barefoot while standing on a piece of metal. I have no idea how he accomplishes that.
Funny thing about him, though, he actually had metal in his insoles for his shoes.
Well, okay, that probably explains it then.
A little bit. Like, I just remembered that because we went through a metal detector and his shoes kept going off and he didn't know why. And the guard, she took apart every bit of his shoe because, they're thinking that he's got something on him he shouldn't have. He had metal insoles. So that's probably why.
Well, between him and between the guy who would always replace the booster panels without cutting the electric and without either capping or taping off the hot wire.
Oh yeah, this guy went through booster panels like water.
Oh yeah, he would get sent out to replace one, and he would call a shop back, "Hey, I need another booster panel. We just sent you out there with one." "Yeah, I blew it up."
I don't know why they kept sending him out to do that. Like, after... Okay, once, I can understand. Twice, okay, whatever. 3 times? No, this guy went through, like, at least 8 of these panels, and they're not cheap.
No, they're a lot more expensive now than what they were at the time. But at the time, I think they were about $2,500.
Easy, yeah.
Yeah. So I mean that gets expensive pretty quick. And when that happens, you can't RMA it because it's not a bad part anymore. And there's an onboard fuse, so they know if voltage got somewhere where it shouldn't be.
Yeah,
they can find out.
Yeah, there's no way of getting out of that. Like, you're just gonna have to eat that cost.
Yeah. So I don't know why they kept having him go out and replace booster panels. Makes no sense to me.
Hey, it is what it is.
It is what it is. Yes.
I guess it could be worse. He could have gone through about 20 of them.
Well, I mean, there is that. I mean, it could. Today's theme is it could always be worse, and I mean, kind of touching on that. The absolute worst thing you can have happen to you on a job site is having the fire trucks pull up.
Oh yeah.
And I thankfully haven't had it happen too often, but it has happened quite a few times.
I need to find some wood to knock on because I haven't had it happen to me yet.
I have no idea how you have it.
I don't either.
So, funny enough, the first time that it actually happened to me, I was doing an annual inspection at one of our bigger projects, and the account had been on test the entire day. We haven't had any issues. Everything was going great. It was the end of the day. It was like 3 o'clock, something like that. And, me and the guy that I was working with, we were like, there's only like 2 devices left to test back here. Let's go ahead and test them real fast. And, so that way we don't have to walk all the way back here. I went and tested them. We're packing up our stuff, waiting for the panel to go back to normal. We get a call from the facility manager, and he's like, "Hey, is everything okay back there?" And I was like, "Yeah, everything's good. We're packing up, just waiting for the panel to normalize. Nothing to really note. Why? What's up?" And he's like, "The fire department's here." When I say my freaking butt puckered, it puckered. It was not a good feeling. I'm freaking out. I'm like, I know for a fact the account is on test until like 6 p.m. tonight. And mind you, we still had 3 hours left to go. Needless to say, I got my butt chewed pretty good from the fire marshal for that one. And it wasn't my fault.
No.
I went back through. We went back through with the client and the fire department, and I was like, look, it was on test at this time through to this time. It took itself off test for some reason, and then immediately put it back on test for no reason whatsoever. I was like, I have no idea what happened.
Good grief.
And that was one of the times that I've had fire trucks pull up. Another time I was pre-testing at a school, and I was also troubleshooting, trying to fix an issue. And when I get into the troubleshooting mindset, literally nothing else really exists in my space. I get focused on the issue at hand, trying to fix it, and the test for the account had expired, and I wasn't paying attention, didn't realize it. Pulled a pull station to test because I thought I had fixed my issue. We walked the building, nothing. Same outcome as before. So I went back to the panel, silenced everything, reset. I went to walk out to my van to grab something. I forget what it was. It was either a new part or maybe it was a tool. I forget what it was, but I walk out and in my peripheral, I see something flashing. I look to my left and there's the fire chief. Now, granted, he was actually really chill about it. I just walked up to him real quick. I was like, "Hey, I'm working on the fire system, and I forgot to put it back in test." He laughed, and he kind of handled it. But yeah, having fire trucks pull up on the site, that is probably one of the situations where it can't actually be worse.
Fair enough. And with that, we're going to call it a day with this episode. Thank you all for listening. And we do have a question of the week for you guys. What are some messed up things that you've seen at work that have made you say, well, could be worse?
Yeah.
So, thank you all for listening. We'll catch you next time.